Hello, I'm Bronwyn Kelly, the founder of Australian Community Futures Planning, or ACFP. ACFP was established in March 2020 to help Australians build their own plan for a better future, the future they would really prefer as a nation. From our extensive research, we know that the better future Australians have been saying they want is not the future that every political party is prepared to offer in the 2022 federal election. So we've produced a report in which we have looked in detail at the policies of the three major parties contesting the election, Liberal, Labor and the Greens, and we've assessed their level of commitment to the future Australians have said they want. ACFP has described that obviously preferred future by listening to what Australians have been saying over the last decade about the life they aspire to and the country they want to live in by 2050 or sooner. We've consolidated all that into a draft vision, a vision we've called the Vision for Australia Together. You can read this vision in full on the ACFP website at www.austcfp.com.au/Australia-Together. Links are in the description below. The vision is already being used to help the Australian community build a long-term integrated plan to make our preferred future a reality by 2050 or much sooner. That plan is called Australia Together, and you can become involved in commenting on the vision and contributing to the plan at our website. But the Vision for Australia Together is also useful for assessing how committed politicians are to our preferred better future. So ACFP has completed a detailed comparative analysis of the policy platforms of the three major parties and checked whether those policies will move Australians towards the future they want or away from it. This has allowed us to establish the Australian Better Futures Commitment Index. This new tool is a little like the federal election scorecard on climate and health, produced at each election by the Climate and Health Alliance of Australia, except that the Better Futures Commitment Index looks at all aspects of the policy platforms put forward by the parties. As it turns out, ACFP's index lines up fully with the results of the Climate and Health Alliance assessment. But the major parties have offered commitments in a total of 37 different policy areas, such as the economy, tax, biodiversity conservation, ethical governance, equality, social inclusion, public services, education, jobs and pay, to name just a few. All these things matter to people, and the parties know it. So the Better Futures Commitment Index has been designed to help Australians determine at a glance whether the major parties are committed to moving the nation closer to or further away from the future we want as a whole in our society, environment, economy and democracy. To build the index and make sure it is fair and reliable, we've analysed the detail of the policy platforms of each of the three main parties, compared them to each other, and then assessed their commitment to each aspect of the Vision for Australia Together based on the way they have expressed their policies and the policy areas they have chosen to campaign on. In short, we've matched up how well all the party policies perform in relation to the Vision for Australia Together. From there, we've calculated each party's net commitment to our preferred future. So, how committed are they? The results show clearly that the party most committed to the better future described in the Vision for Australia Together is the Greens. The party least committed, and in fact not committed at all, is the Liberal Party. The Labor Party can be fairly regarded as partially committed. This means that anyone who reads the Vision for Australia Together and finds themselves wanting to live in the country and nation it describes should find this report helpful in selecting the political party most likely to help them make that vision a reality by 2050 or sooner. Based on the evidence in the report, which is nothing more or less than the evidence provided by the three parties themselves, the major parties have widely different levels of commitment to creating the future Australians want. How do we know that? Well, there are 17 elements to the Vision for Australia Together. When we put the policy details provided by the parties next to the vision element they are most likely to relate to, we end up with net results like this. Greens party policies will move Australia towards the future in all 17 elements of the vision. Labor Party policies will move Australia towards the future in 6 elements of the vision, but they also move us away from 3 elements and will take us neither towards nor away from the other 8 elements of the vision. So Labor ends up with a net result of 3. Liberal Party policies will move Australia towards the future in 0 elements of the vision. They actually move the nation away from 16 elements. On the remaining 17th element, the Liberal Party policies will move the nation neither towards nor away from that element. This chart shows net scores, the net result of movements forward and backward in the totality of each party's policy platform. But in the report, we can also see the results on the percentage of vision elements each party is likely to move toward or away from. Greens party policies move us towards 100% of the vision elements. They really align with the aspirations that ACFP has noticed are preferred by Australians. Labor Party policies move us towards 35% of the elements, away from 18%, and have no effect either way on 47%. The Liberal Party policies move us away from 94% of the vision elements and have no effect either way on the remaining 6%. In these results, there's no mistaking the Greens agenda as the one most likely to make the Vision for Australia Together a reality if their policies were to be implemented. The other parties are unlikely to make the vision a reality. Those voters who find themselves supporting the Vision for Australia Together but still wanting to vote for either of the 2 parties that appear not to support it may find some assistance in the following tables. These provide the breakdown of where each party performs well against the vision or poorly, by showing how each party contributes to each of the individual 17 vision elements. It shows exactly where the parties are most committed, where they're neutral, and where they're least committed. This is backed up by analysis of the headline policy statements of the parties in tables like this, one for each vision element. Voters can use these tables to assess whether a party's policies, on balance, are likely to make a difference to what matters most to them personally. Performance scores on these tables can also help voters make their own decisions about how to cast their preferences. One way or another, in Australia's voting system, we all have to cast a preference for every party on the ballot paper. So, at ACFP, we hope these tables will help. The link to the report, which contains the tables and the full array of evidence collected to build the tables and provide fair results, is in the description below. None of this means that the Greens party gets us to the future we want. No party is offering enough to do that. But it does mean that the Greens policies are taking us in the right direction. Labor's policies overall push us towards the future we prefer, but less securely and more slowly. Liberal Party policies can have no other effect overall than to drag us away from our preferred future as a nation, living and working together. Some viewers might assume that affordability will be a limiting factor in our ability to implement the Greens policies in full. However, the methodology of the Better Futures Commitment Index assumes that all parties will face similar affordability issues with their platforms. Having said that, it's the Liberal Party agenda that looks to be the most expensive. That agenda is in fact significantly more likely to cost Australia much more in damages from climate change and social exclusion than the agendas of Labor or the Greens. It's likely to pose the highest risk to national wealth. Despite that, the results have not been weighted against the Liberal Party on the basis of affordability. In this index, all 3 parties are given an even start. What they are being assessed on is their genuine intentions in relation to the vision. This gives Australians a better chance to decide their vote based on the quality of each party's agenda and send a clear message about what they want their money to be spent on. Later on, the winning party can then work out how to finance what we want. That's their job. Should viewers have concerns about the affordability of a party's platform, they may review the party websites or contact the parties for more information. Otherwise, ACFP has taken the view that elections are not and should not be where budgets are balanced. They should be the occasion for thinking about what our national wealth would best be spent on, not just in the short term, but for the next generation too. ACFP's Election 2022 report also includes other information about the policy perspectives and relative capacity of each party's platform to deliver a better future, regardless of whether that future looks like the Vision for Australia Together or looks like the future each party is promoting. But there are significant differences in their level of commitment to the future, no matter how we and they might express it. The Liberal Party has chosen to offer a much narrower agenda than Labor or the Greens, and a scan of the policy areas featured in each party's campaign shows up the full extent of that difference in commitment. The major parties have chosen to campaign in a total of 37 different policy areas, but no party is campaigning in all 37. The Greens are campaigning in 35 of the 37, Labor is campaigning in 28, and the Liberals are campaigning in only 20. The Liberal Party agenda is particularly narrow in reform of governance, inasmuch as they have offered almost nothing in the areas of corruption prevention, fixing electoral funding distortion and rorts, supporting the ABC and encouraging media diversity, supporting the public service, improving relations with Pacific nations, fostering youth engagement, and protecting human rights. That is too thin a platform to lead to a better Australia, especially in terms of ethical governance and national security. Compared to the platforms of Labor and the Greens, the Liberal Party platform is high risk in several ways. Finally, Australian voters will be likely to make their choice based on what matters most to them, but some of the less well-off may perceive that a trade-off is needed, a trade-off between their desire for a better future described in the Vision for Australia Together and their need for financial security right now. Will voters have to sacrifice their kids' future, say by doing what's necessary to prevent climate change, just to survive financially in the here and now? This is a question many will ask themselves because they've been told they can't afford to do both, and particularly what's necessary to stop climate change. Again, the report can help them here. It provides insight into what, if anything, Australians may have to forego in the short term if they choose a party that is focused on the longer term. As it turns out, the short answer to that is nothing. And that's because of the way the parties have structured their policies for the short term. They're actually not asking Australians to choose between their longer-term aspirations for their kids and the shorter-term needs that must be catered to right now, like getting a meal on the table for the family, getting another job as the coal industry shuts down, or being able to afford to run a small business. The analysis shows that, surprisingly, Australians aren't really being presented with the need for any trade-offs of this kind. There's no suggestion in the agendas of parties offering longer-term security, a sustainable environment, and a carbon-neutral economy that such benefits can only be secured at the expense of short-term well-being. This is because the parties are either all offering pretty much the same in terms of short-term benefits like tax arrangements for wage earners or small business, or they're offering both short-term and longer-term benefits in such a way that no trade-off between the two is required. By contrast, the third party, Liberal, is certainly asking Australians to sacrifice their future, but oddly enough, it is not offering more in short-term gains than the other two parties to make that loss of the future worthwhile. It's not offering a lot at all in exchange for that future. In several ways, it's offering less, particularly in education, and welfare. Overall, it's not unfair to summarise the Liberal Party platform as long-term pain for no short-term gain. It's an odd feature of the 2022 election, but those parties offering more security in the long term, that's Labor and the Greens, are also offering more security in the short term. They're certainly offering more security in the short and long term than the Liberal Party. It's a strange pitch by the Liberal Party, but the fact is Australians are lucky in that they're being given an opportunity by the two other major parties to build security, well-being and social cohesion. This is especially evident in the differences between the parties on national security and defence. The Liberals are campaigning on national security and defence, but it is the Greens platform that is built more solidly for purposes of safety and security at home and in a more unstable world. The party that has cut down its agenda to the bare bones, that's the Liberal Party, is not only the party least committed to making Australia safer and more secure, it's also, when we add all its policies up, the party least committed to broad-scale immediate support for workers in job security, wage rises, access to educational opportunity, equality for women and gender-diverse Australians, small business support, and a whole array of other vital immediate needs. Lucky Australia! In this election, they're being treated to opportunities not to be missed. The Better Futures Commitment Index does not provide comment on any party's actual demonstrated or prospective competence in government. It merely looks at their commitment in their 2022 election platforms to deliver the better future Australians want. Viewers wishing to assess the competence of Australia's governments over the last 10 to 20 years will find a detailed evidence-based assessment of that competence elsewhere in our recent report, The State of Australia 2022. You can view videos summarising this report on YouTube. Links are in the description below. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this program, please click like on the YouTube page and share the program with your friends and subscribe to this channel.